Artificial Sun, Chapter 7. Althea turned her back to the other fledglings and made her way into the hole where the gorillas were. She was surprised to see them playing with Flynn. She was even more surprised to see how he was enjoying it. One of the gorillas was clinging tightly to his neck, while another was jumping up to try and grab his hair.
Seems like they like you too.
Althea smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Flynn turned to her and refrained from frowning at her expression.
What did they do with the body?
Flynn asked, and as if sensing the atmosphere, the red-marked gorilla climbed down from his neck. The gorillas inched towards Althea with inquisitive eyes. Althea pursed her lips into a straight line before she spoke.
Azura got what she wanted, just as she always does.
Flynn's face was coated with sincerity when he spoke again.
I'm sorry, Wildcard.
Althea looked at him, as in, really looked at him. He had physical features unrivaled by many, but when he was serious and sincere, however seldom that may be, he had a maturity about him. A maturity that set Althea's heart alight. Not wanting to dwell on the topic much further, Althea nodded once. She looked at the gorillas and forced a smile onto her lips.
Would you like to meet the others?
She asked them. She didn't think they would understand her, but Titans were clever. They had fear in their eyes, and they backed up so that they were behind Flynn's legs. Althea crouched down.
Nobody's going to hurt you.
Her eyes held a gentleness that the gorillas seemed to understand. First, the green-marked one stepped forward, followed by its siblings. Relief flooded Althea's features as she released it in the form of a soft sigh. She looked at Flynn for a second, and he smiled gently, encouragingly. Althea stood up straight and exited the opening in the cave. There was no trace of the dead gorilla, but the floor she had been burnt into was blackened. Everyone was host to a variety of expressions ranging from amazed to appalled as the gorilla slowly emerged from the opening of the cave. They mostly hid behind Althea's legs, but the red-marked one refused to stray too far from Flynn, who was right behind the rest.
So it's true.
Neolani breathed out. Her eyes were stuck on the gorillas, caught off guard by their beauty. She walked forward, and when she reached Althea, she got to her knees so that she was eye level with the gorillas.
Hello there,
she said with a gentle smile, but the gorillas didn't move.
Those markings on them.
Bayard looked at the gorillas before looking up at Althea. He had the crease between his eyebrows once again.
There.
Gorgeous.
Ameera stepped forward and followed Neolani's motions. The green-marked gorilla slowly crept out from behind Althea's legs and walked towards Neolani. The teleporter couldn't contain her smile as she nudged her hand towards the gorilla.
Go on then.
Her eyes danced with wonder.
I won't hurt you.
The gorilla gently took Neolani's hand and brought it up to its nose to sniff. After a tense few seconds, the gorilla let out a sound that indicated that it trusted her. Then, as if triggered, the rest ran to the teleporter to sniff her. They tugged on her hair and arms, and she giggled in the process as she stood up.
They're the cutest things I've ever seen.
Her eyes shone as she looked at Althea.
Grunner was right about tiny gorillas. They aren't born with bloodthirst or hatred.
They were creatures of peace. As the gorillas warmed up to the rest of the fledglings who had stepped forward to meet them, apart from Azura, one of them ran to Ambrose. It was the green-marked one, the most curious and adventurous of the four.
Hello there,
Ambrose greeted with a smile. but that smile soon fell when the gorilla roughly tugged on his right hand.
Hey, ouch!
He grimaced in pain as he got onto his knees to level with the gorilla. The gorilla examined the hand, and with a grunt, it closed both hands over it.
What the?
Ambrose was beginning to say, but he was stunned into silence when he felt a familiar warmth spread through his hand. He pulled his hand back and flexed it with obvious surprise written across his features. He stood up and looked at Althea, who was entranced in watching Bayard play with the gold-marked gorilla.
Did you know they could do that?
He asked Althea, who faced him, and raised her eyebrow quizzically.
Do what?
Ambrose flexed his hand once more, and Althea caught on. She quickly shifted her eyes to each of the gorillas.
They're healers?
Like you.
Ameera said, exasperated. As if things weren't strange enough with Althea being able to connect with Titans, these gorillas seemed to have the same power as her. Azura stepped forward.
All right. You guys had your fun. Who's going to do the honors?
The honors?
Flynn asked as he leaned down and picked up his bloodied sword. He wiped the blood off on the discarded skin of the deer before he sheathed it.
We can't let them live, can we?
Azura asked in confusion, and everyone exchanged glances.
Why not?
Althea asked, challenging Azura once again.
Think about it.
Azura sighed.
Their mother is dead, and we won't be staying in this cave forever. They'll die without anyone to protect them. If we end it now, it will be the best way for them to go.
While her words were harsh, she had a point. The gorillas would never be able to hold their own. They would die starved and hunted if left alone.
She's right.
Ameera admitted, and even Neolani nodded.
So we'll take them with us.
Althea suggested with a twinge of panic in her voice. She couldn't kill these creatures, not after the promise she made them. She intended to keep her word. She wasn't going to let anybody hurt them.
We barely have enough food as it is.
Bayard admitted, and Althea's heart ached out of fear and desperation. Bayard was the leader, and he called the shots.
We'll double our hunting party. I'll catch some more grouse. I'll scavenge for nuts and berries if I have to.
Althea kept her expression firm, but the waver in her voice hinted at her doubt and fear.
For 4 baby titans?
Ameera asked. She'd been sitting with one of the gorillas, but she stood when she said this.
They're children!
Althea pleaded.
And soon, they'll be twice your size.
While Azura didn't particularly like Althea, her voice held sympathy. How she could form an attachment to wild creatures, Azura had yet to understand.
What do you intend to do then?
Althea didn't answer immediately, but with a determination in her voice, she finally said,
They go where I go. We killed their mother. We owe it to them to keep them safe. Harm them and harm me. Kill them and kill me.
Your impudence knows no bounds, does it?
Azura stepped forward, but Althea stood her ground. The gorillas found their place behind Althea's legs after they sensed the tension in the air.
They go where I go.
Althea's voice hardened as she repeated her previous statement.
You're not the one in charge here.
Azura threatened before both girls turned their heads to Bayard to await his answer. The atmosphere was tense, and Bayard knew that any answer he gave would cause even more tension.
We'll flip a coin.
He pulled a coin out from his satchel and shifted his gaze between each of them as he said,
If it's heads, they die. If it's tails, they live.
You're betting their lives on a coin toss?
Althea raised her voice, but Bayard already flipped the coin into the air. The coin landed in his hand, and he quickly flipped it onto the upper part of his hand. The atmosphere was tense as he removed his hand to reveal the outcome. He looked at Althea with artificial iciness in his eyes.
You will feed and train them yourself.
He resigned with a nod. Althea's shoulders slumped forward in relief, as Azura's eyes hardened and her jaw tightened. She was used to getting what she wanted, whenever she wanted it. But ever since they left Edagene, things hadn't been going her way. Flynn raised a brow as he watched how Bayard slipped the double-tailed coin back in his satchel. The following day, the fledglings woke up feeling well-rested and stronger than they'd been in a while. Flynn stretched his arms over his head as he looked at the other fledglings who were just waking up. It was clear to Flynn that Althea had the last watch, as she wasn't among them. The gorillas were gone too. Flynn stood up and began walking just outside the cave to look for the healer and her companions. He didn't have to look far before he found them. Althea was throwing her daggers towards the trees in front of her. Her aim wasn't perfect, but she still hit the trunk each time. She then retrieved the daggers and walked back to her position. Flynn smiled a bit in amusement as he watched Althea explain to the gorillas what she'd just done. She held her gold-plated dagger towards the blue-marked gorilla and instructed him to throw it just as she had. He ended up grabbing the weapon and running away, which caused Flynn to chuckle a bit. Hearing his chuckle, Althea turned to him and smiled sheepishly as the gorillas took to fighting over the dagger.
I'm trying to teach them,
she admitted. Flynn stuffed his hands into his pockets and walked towards her with an amused smile on his lips.
I've noticed,
said Flynn.
I don't think I've ever seen a dagger-throwing gorilla. You might be onto something.
This statement caused a chuckle of sarcastic laughter to escape Althea's lips as she turned to the gorillas who had discarded her dagger by now and were wrestling among themselves.
It's a long shot, but I've got to teach them something. I can't fight or hunt like a gorilla, and they might never learn that skill considering their mother is gone.
She sighed and faced Flynn again with a melancholy expression.
I'm trying to teach them what I know so they aren't completely powerless when they need to fight.
Be that as it may, they're still animals. They will never wield a dagger.
He didn't want to sugarcoat it, but Althea knew he was right.
They have instincts that will lead and guide them. You just need to do what you do best.
Althea's expression shifted into one of amusement as she asked,
And what is that?
Protect them.
Flynn said, and Althea's face fell. She wasn't good at protecting anybody. It was her fault they were all in this mess after all. Flynn noticed the shift in her mood, so he changed the subject.
Have you named them?
Althea's face lit up, and she nodded proudly. She pointed at the gold-marked one as he tumbled on the ground with his siblings.
That's Longclaw, because he has the biggest hands I've ever seen.
She explained with excitement.
That one over there, the only girl, she's Leona.
She gestured to the red-marked one before she pointed to the green-marked one.
That one is Beau.
Her smile faltered a bit as she eyed the last one, the blue-marked one.
And he's Pellinor.
She looked to Flynn to see his reaction, but there was none.
You can't still blame yourself for his death.
Flynn looked at her. She let out a sigh.
You're right.
She said, not because she believed it, but so that they wouldn't dwell on it any further. She knew she was always going to blame herself for his death. The gorilla suddenly rushed past Althea and Flynn, knocking into her legs in the process. She fell forward slightly, but Flynn steadied her by her shoulders.
Careful now.
He barely whispered. Althea looked up at him. The morning sun that cast a glow over his face and his eyes seemed to glisten as he breathed in her. He was handsome and sun-kissed. Once again, the guy she'd always known, though with a newfound hint of maturity. Without warning, Althea tipped her face towards Flynn and pressed her lips to his. He was so shocked that he hadn't responded to the sudden kiss. The gesture was short and sweet, though as she pulled away, Flynn seemed to sober up and grabbed her by the waist, pulling her back into his arms. His lips were soft on hers, and she found herself melting in his embrace. All the worry and tension that built up the past few weeks seemed to wash away as they kissed slowly and passionately. Suddenly, a force pushed the two apart. Leona jumped onto Flynn's shoulders and hung from his neck as she shouted at Althea. Althea opened her mouth in shock and scoffed in amusement before she looked at Flynn.
Someone is jealous.
She giggled, and Flynn playfully rolled his eyes.
Being this good looking can be such a pain sometimes,
he said with a smirk, but his smirk turned into a genuine smile as he looked at Althea. She looked untamed and wild due to their time in the woods, but she also looked gentle, soft, and strong.
I want you to know that I've got your back, Wildcard. Always.
And I have yours.
She said almost immediately.
Always.
A feminine hand brushed the scaled neck of a magnificent red dragon. It grumbled and leaned into its master's touch. Troubled by the beast's grumble, the beautiful queen, Arielle, shushed her companion and stepped even closer towards it.
Hush now, sweet child.
Her voice was sweet, melodic, though only when she addressed her dragon. It wasn't long before the reason for the beast's grumble made itself known.
Your Grace.
The queen flinched as she was addressed by her royal title. She did not like to be disturbed when she was out in the gardens with her dragon. She turned her head to face the court's diplomat with a fake smile.
Cedric, to what do I owe the pleasure?
The queen folded her hands in front of her, and with a great gust of wind, the dragon beat its wings and flew off. Cedric's eyes never left the dragon as it flew away, dumbfounded by its sheer size and might, as well as its ornate black and red scales. The queen grew impatient, so she followed his gaze and continued the fake smile.
She's magnificent, isn't she?
The question was rhetorical, but Cedric voiced his agreement almost immediately. The queen continued, allowing her fake smile to shift into a real one as she watched the dragon take to the skies.
Orion. She's grown fairly well since she first joined me at court, don't you think?
She looked at Cedric now, who finally took his eyes off of Orion and shifted his attention to the queen.
Indeed, Your Grace.
Cedric nodded, as his lips formed a taut smile.
Now, what is the reason for your intrusion?
The iciness of her words betrayed the smile on her face. While the queen was a beauty, with freckles, fiery red hair, sapphire eyes, and a feigned softness about her, she was most renowned for her coldness towards her enemies and her indifference towards her subjects. Cedric held up a note.
Word from Edagene,
he explained.
My allies in the north?
She frowned in her confusion. While Edagene wasn't part of the true north, they were still north from Dwindlewood.
What of them?
They ride to meet us,
Cedric explained. Queen Arielle best hid her facial expression by beginning to walk back to the throne room, with Cedric following beside her.
What is it they want?
She asked, while nothing in her voice or face gave away what she was feeling. She was worried. She hadn't met with anyone from Edagene in years. She assumed the alliance was flourishing, so the fact that they were riding to meet with her shocked her.
They allegedly have a traitor in their midst.
Cedric explained what he had read on the note.
They wish to bring him before you so that you might rightfully judge him.
What am I to do with a traitor?
Arielle snapped in irritation, keeping her gaze from Cedric.
Let them know that they can handle their personal affairs on their own. Bringing a traitor before me is a waste of time and an insult to the crown.
They say the traitor bears information that is a threat to your claim on the throne.
Cedric mentioned, once they reached the stairs to the entrance of the throne room. When met with a hard glance, he sputtered out the title.
Your Grace.
The threats to my claim on the throne have been abolished years ago.
She stated as she ascended the stairs while Cedric remained at the bottom.
Not all, Your Grace.
Cedric said, and Arielle paused. Her heels clicked to the ground as she stopped and faced the diplomat. Her confidence was without doubt, but her curiosity and amusement got the better of her. She tilted her head and smiled softly.
When the people of Edagene arrive, make sure to welcome them. I'm very curious to hear about this traitor they speak of.
The carriage rolled so gently on the path that it could have lulled Grunner to sleep had he not refused to give in to rest. He had to keep his guard up. Foxglove was sitting opposite him, snoring, after all. They had Grunner cleaned and fed so as to look presentable before the Queen, even though they still bound his hands with chains. Unbeknownst to them, they had also helped him regain his strength, though he feigned weakness. He was disappointed. He expected them to be much smarter than they were. He expected a challenge. Grunner was a smart man. He knew he could get himself out of this situation if he was given the opportunity. Foxglove was almost making it too easy. Hellebore was a smart man as well, but one of his greatest mistakes was sending Foxglove to escort Grunner to Dwindlewood. The warden had duties in Edagene, and he was to ride through to the castle once he had sorted them out. They had been riding for a few days now, and each day Foxglove grew more and more impatient. The sky was dusted with pink and orange hues as the sun began to set, and Grunner knew that soon the driver and his horses would be riding in the dark. A stone in the path caused the carriage to jerk, and Foxglove woke with a startle. Simultaneously, Grunner shut his eyes so that it seemed he was sleeping the entire time.
Wake up, you insolent little fool.
Foxglove sneered, almost embarrassed that he had fallen asleep himself. Grunner didn't stir. He knew that it would anger Foxglove. The mind controller could get out of this situation, but he would know exactly when and where.
I said wake up!
Foxglove raised his voice, and Grunner pretended to wake with a groan. Foxglove smirked at seeing Grunner so pitiful. Grunner had always been an envy among the mentors. When the others heard of his betrayal, they were surprised and saddened alike. If they had to see him now, nobody would envy him.
Forgive me.
Grunner feigned weakness, barely breathing at the words.
I can't remember when last I got proper rest.
He had to bite his tongue to hold his smirk, as Foxglove's face shifted into a scowl.
You don't deserve proper rest. This isn't a joy trip.
He practically spat the words at Grunner, who was unfazed.
My apologies.
Grunner nodded slowly. He was playing Foxglove like a fiddle. A man like him was easy for a mind controller to toy with. Telepathists always thought they were untouchable, and that they were smarter than the rest. but a mind controller was their match. Grunner's face, which was once unscarred, now had a long cut on his cheek from his days in the cell. This was the only scar that would be made visible to the Queen, but underneath his clothing, Grunner was peppered with bruises and scars. He was also still adjusting to seeing his left hand without half of its pinky finger, a result of Foxglove's frustration. The scratch underneath his throat from when Foxglove held the dagger to it was almost healed by now, though it was still burned a bit. Foxglove took in his surroundings, and Grunner sucked in a breath as he noticed the road they were on. If his hunch was correct, now would be the time for him to make his escape.
Where are we?
Foxglove leaned out to ask the driver, and Grunner hid his smirk. He had controlled Foxglove to ask the question, and the telepathist was none the wiser. Foxglove leaned back in and confirmed Grunner's suspicion.
Azura,
he muttered to himself, but Grunner could hear him.
I hate this pitiful excuse of a town.
Grunner waited until the sun had set and the sky darkened before he made his move. The carriage lurched until eventually it came to a stop. Grunner controlled his breathing so that he could have a better grip on the mind of the pack of wolves that shook the carriage and snarled while doing so.
What in the world?
Foxglove muttered as the driver let out a piercing scream, followed by a gurgling sound. Foxglove's eyes glimmered with hatred as he pulled out Grunner's dagger.
I hate the southern wolves,
he said, and made a move to step out of the carriage, but Grunner innocently inched towards him.
Unchain me and I can help you.
Grunner was an honorable man, but he had to lie if he was going to escape.
Do I look crazy to you?
Foxglove snorted before he disappeared out of the carriage. Grunner got out as well and willed the wolves to stop in their tracks. They lined up in front of the carriage, gray and blood-stained. Foxglove sneered as he looked at the dead body of the driver. The horses were untouched, and that was strange.
Unchain me,
Grunner repeated, his voice laced with a warning this time around.
Or the wolves will.
Foxglove opened his mouth to say something, but then his face paled as he caught on. He looked from Grunner to the wolves, back to Grunner. His face held fear, but his voice was hard.
You'll hang for this, foreign bastard,
Foxglove said before he spat at Grunner. His spit didn't land anywhere near Grunner, but the disrespect was evident. In a flash, one of the wolves ran towards Grunner, and with a bite force of 4 tons, ripped the chain in half. Foxglove's eyes widened. He'd forgotten about the strength that southern wolves held in their jaws alone.
There is no need for bloodshed,
Grunner said, and as he said this, the wolves turned on their heels and disappeared into the night on Grunner's command. Grunner wasn't a man of violence unless violence was mandatory. He killed when he needed to, not for pleasure. Foxglove said nothing for a while as the rivals shared eye contact. He flicked his eyes to the driver who was lying dead in a pool of his own blood.
Tell that to him.
He pulled Grunner's daggers out once he realized that Grunner was unarmed.
I was charged with bringing you to the Queen, and that's what I'm going to do. Or maybe I'll just bring her your head.
Foxglove was tired of Grunner. His hatred clouded his judgment. He wanted Grunner dead, and he was going to be the one to do it. Foxglove made the first attack. He threw Grunner's dagger, but the mind controller knew the art of throwing blades all too well. He dodged the dagger, so Foxglove advanced on him instead, bare-fisted. The two went back and forth as Grunner dodged and Foxglove attacked. Sensing weakness in Grunner's footing, Foxglove swept his foot underneath Grunner's legs, causing him to fall to the ground. Foxglove wasted no time. He stabbed the dagger with all his might at the place where Grunner's head would have been had he not rolled away in time and stood up. Grunner whipped his chains across Foxglove's face, the metal slashing his skin. Furious, Foxglove doubled the speed of his attacks, managed to lodge the remaining dagger into Grunner's leg, causing him to fall to his knees. Foxglove brought his knee up under Grunner's jaw and watched as the mind controller fell onto his back once again with his dagger still buried in his leg. Grunner groaned and clawed at his leg for his dagger, but he couldn't reach it in time before Foxglove was looming over him and delivering blows to his face. Grunner made peace that this was the end, that this was how he was meant to go. He put up a fight, a good one, considering he had no weapons. His head rang as he absorbed punch after punch, and he shut his eyes slowly. When his eyes shut, he saw her. He saw Althea. He had done everything for her. She was like a daughter to him, and he had charged himself with protecting her. If she were to see him now, she'd yell at him to get up and to fight. She'd tell him he was the strongest man she ever knew, and that he couldn't die like this. He couldn't die like this. Feeling a new wave of strength wash over him, Grunner managed to pull the dagger out of his leg with all his might, before lodging it deep in between two of Foxglove's right-sided ribs. Shock etched onto Foxglove's face as he paused with his fist in midair. Grunner took this few seconds of hesitation to ram the palm of his hand into Foxglove's nose with a satisfying crack. He kicked Foxglove off him, and he fell to the ground with a cry. Grunner moved so that he was looming over Foxglove instead, and there was no mistaking the tears threatening to spill out of Foxglove's eyes. Foxglove wept and held his hands out on either side of him.
Mercy,
he pitifully said with a shaky breath.
Mercy, please.
Grunner looked down at Foxglove. He was pathetic and weak. He always had been. Grunner wanted to kill Foxglove, but that was too merciful for a man like him. Instead, Grunner decided to leave him to die. Grunner swayed lightheadedly as he stood up. His face was bloodied and bruised, and he could barely stand on his leg. He ignored Foxglove's pathetic whimpers as he walked towards the horses. He loosened their bondages and mounted one with great difficulty. He gripped the horse's mane, staining the white-haired horse with blood as he lightly kicked its side. The horse began to take off in the direction of Azura, and Grunner couldn't help the slight smile that formed on his face. Artificial Sun, Chapter 7.